Ongea mbaya uone.
I think I have to say I agree because our generation, and I think it's very evident, we speak up whenever things are not right. We speak up for what we want. There's a more accepting, I guess, space for us to really talk about who we are and like stand for what we believe in, stand for the people that we feel we were supposed or are meant to be. I feel like back in the day, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong because I was clearly not there. Back in the day, there was this fear, and I think generally just because of the rules that were there before and just because of the times, it was less accepting. So I think people were more timid to, speak up to authority, question who they are because it's been set on stone. This is how you're supposed to be. This is how you're supposed to grow up. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And I think even just looking at the education system as well, it was you either do this or you don't. And I think it goes back to a conversation about the laws. Like the laws were straight and you either follow this or you don't. And I think a lot of people, I believe at the time, were probably more timid to really speak up when like they feel like they're not part of that, and I think even if you look at how schools are right now, and I think education is a very good example of this. Like right now, it's okay for me to, if I want to wear braids and I feel like I want to have green hair color and I want to express myself that way, there are education systems that are willing and able to accept you the way you are. But then before it was, you're going to have those back lines, whether you like it or not, you're going to dress in this specific uniform. And I think it was less liberal. And I think a lot of people, I guess, in that sense, were not able to really, I think they're also not given the space to really be the people that they feel like they are. But as of today, I think it's like, yeah, you can be whoever you are. Society is like more accepting to it. Whether it's right or wrong is a different question. But I just think in terms of that, yeah, I agree.
I think it's just the expression that has changed. There were more rebellious people in the years gone by than they are. Think about the hippie movement. Okay, I know you were not there for clear reasons. But the hippie, I also wasn't there, but I've just done a bit of study on the hippie movement. It was called the free love movement. All right, and it was actually birthed. It's a very interesting story, but it was birthed out of the reaction of young people to the Vietnam War when the US attacked Vietnam. All right. And they were like, why are you going to war with these guys? What have they done to us? First of all, it's a small country in a dingy corner of the ocean. And then you've taken all this massive army to go and fight them. For what? For political expedience? And so these guys rebel not just to the state, but even to society's norms. So they jibebad. And these were kids from about 12, 13, all the way to 20s, early 20s. And they decided they are not doing the education. They are not doing this thing of homes. We are good Christians. They decided they are kicking out the education. They're kicking out the faith. And they are kicking out work. So they just, and of course, the lifestyle. Because all these things came together with, now once you study, then you'll get a job, then you get married, then you get your children. And this order of life was suddenly not making sense because you guys are telling us to be good people and then you go and attack a whole country and kill people. And if you notice, a lot of the movies that came out in the 90s, in the 80s, 90s, 2000s were all about America trying to clean up its image. That's where Arnold Schwarzenegger and, Sylvester Stallone, Rambo, all these movies came up to clean up their image about what perception it created. Not just outside America, but inside America. And so what did these young guys do? They took out from schools. The VW was the thing those days. So they pandered this VW and then they had their celebrities, Elvis Presley, rock and roll, and other guys. And they would just drive across several states in America, smoking, drinking, partying, and all the other details. And they didn't want order. And they didn't do church. They didn't do regular hospital. They didn't do. So they were greenies. They were happy-go-luckies, and they just toured America, doing whatever pleased them. They changed their dress codes. That's when they started wearing this funny. Guys were wearing. You guys think you're the first ones to operate with pajamas all day. guys did onesies the whole day, because of just resisting this system that is impartial. It is partial in its treatment of human beings. And so the hippie movement hit like a storm. They had parties, 200,000 people just singing, dancing, and having sex with anyone and everyone. They were the next generation that nobody knew who their father was. It's like, yeah, it's just one of these in this crowd. Could be any one of these. We don't know which one swam first. Could be any one of these. And so a fatherless generation grew up. If you think parties, you guys are having parties, you come back to work on Monday. These guys were partying and driving and just going. And for years, not for weeks, for years. They get pregnant, they have kids on the go, life just goes on. And then finally they pick at the place where like, guys, where we started in California, we are now in the Nevada desert. Guys, it's getting a bit hot here. And so eventually they had to systematize. And this is what gave birth now to these other millennials, Gen Zs, and then we are coming to all these guys. These were the parents. And that's why I think the liberty. They expressed themselves and they fought systems. So big were their resistances that, what was given birth? Women liberation began in those 60s. What are these things we are talking about here? The gay movement began in those 60s. You guys are just recipients. They're just like, the thing happened in those years by these guys who rebelled. Think about the freedom fighters in Africa. The Mau Mau. You guys saying that, we resist, you're tweeting. We're resisting, you're tweeting. These guys, she cut guns, went to the forest and fought. And lost lives. All right? When my elder siblings were in campus, there was something called, you guys know NYS, National Youth Service. It was basically a transitional program between high school and campus. But it was more of a paramilitary training before you go to campus. Let me tell you, after these guys went through, it was all boys and girls. They're being taken through this hard knock training to discipline them, to give them order and structure. But what happened at the end of the day is that instead of just bearing very solid, very disciplined campus students, it also bore an army. So when there were riots, GSU come tactically to fight them. These guys are like, dude, we know your tactics. Nairobi would shut down. Just Nairobi University alone going on strike. The whole city was shut down. Wacha maandamano. Because these students, they know every maneuver. They fought the GSU. Riot police was nothing. You just come, those ones, they chapa you. It's GSU who would come from Rwaka to go and fight. Why? Sometimes because one kid was robbed on the road to university. Sometimes it's because the help loans were delayed. Sometimes it's because they just didn't like something about the government. They fought until NYS was removed because they were like, guys, controlling these university students after they have gone through this training is impossible. So we had rights. And we fought. And as we didn't fight for tweeting, we fought for standing in the road, throwing stones, and, bouting with each other, to come rain, come shine. So we had freedoms. But then the expression is what has softened. And then 2, you also have a lot of avenues to express yourself. Any one of us is a media house with no controls. I can write something now, and the next thing, I have 1 million views. I can say something and you've seen it. And so our expression is largely viewed and accepted or acknowledged. And so it feels like I'm free. But does it free you? Does it free the pain that you're going through? Does it free you from the emotional damage that you're going through? It just gives you expression. And so what the world feels is plentiful now is expression. Is that everyone can see, everyone can hear. I don't know if, at home, if you said some things to your parents, and this is the conversation that we always have. If I said this to my mother, I'd be dead.
Yeah, and that's something I have to say, like, oh my gosh, it is so jarring to hear that statement. Like, oh, like back in the day, I went to school where I didn't have shoes. Oh, I was studying under a tree, or there's all of these things that, like, I feel parents compare to what we're currently going through. I mean, generally, we didn't have, and like you're complaining about just eating ugali. We didn't even have the option of ugali, and it's like, I understand the perspective they're seeing, but I also feel like parents don't see that. One, also, it's not our fault. We were kind of born later, and like we have entered this more advanced generation and world where, like, we don't have the same struggles, but I also feel like the struggles that we face are completely different, and they're genuine struggles. So I also wanted to point out, like, I didn't really agree with the part that you said, like, we have softened the, like, form of struggle, or like we don't go through the exact same ways of expression, because I think more than ever, I think if you compare let me just say one thing. If you compare, like, the hatred.
I went to Weetabix for breakfast. I feel scared because we ate oatmeal instead of Weetabix like other families. What's that?
Yes, fine. We do complain about a lot of things that, parents think are a privilege, and they didn't have that opportunity, and it's like, lucky you. But then if you look at just the amount, I mean, generally the amount of suicide cases, the amount of, like, depression rates, and especially mental health issues that have just blown off the roof compared to the past, it does show something that, like, our struggles are definitely not softer, because at the end of the day, whether you were shot by a big missile of 920 whatever, and whether you were killed by, like, a small comment on Twitter, and, like, you have faced the shame and what, at the end of the day, you're dead, like, it still has led to the same outcome. It could have been, or, like, society, and I feel like parents see it as, like, a bigger pain. But then, is it really a bigger pain? Like, if it leads to the exact same outcome? Because yes, I have gotten a lot of hatred, and I have genuinely, like, been shamed about so many things that I have said out there on social media, and I'm receiving a lot of backlash from it, and it's affecting me mentally, and I'm getting depressed, and just getting to that point where I'm like, I really can't do it in this world. And, like, I've not walked in the World War II, World War One, but, like, I'm still gonna be dead at the end of the day, and I think that's still a form of hard, not soft. That word, soft, it's still a form of pain.
Okay. Okay, let me not joke around with this. This is serious stuff.
It's very serious.
Okay. I think pain and success are all expressed contextually. In a city of blind men, the one with one eye is king. All right? And so if all of us were walking barefoot, we were not poor. We were just earthing.
Right.
We were close, we were in touch with the ground. And so nobody felt any less privileged in a group where all of us were walking barefoot. So we never, and unfortunately sometimes as parents, we try and push that card of, as we suffered, we went to the river to fetch water. Like, dude,
and you don't know how to
expected the river to
cook
come and turn into your house every morning and then go back to its course. No. But it was a normal thing.
Yeah.
Nobody ever saw it as a disadvantage until we discovered taps and water. And we were like, okay, imagine, as we would go out to get water, you have to just go and turn on a tap. And then you have now kids who are like, guys, you don't have a washing machine. And then you used to wear your clothes like this. And how backward is that? Because for them, that context has shifted.
It has.
Eventually, we're going to reach a world where, with the push of a button, you can clean your house, do your dishes. Scientists are toying with the idea of just, it's like a microwave, but now that makes your food. You just finger a button and you want chapos and dondo and
with air fryers and rice
and
cookers.
just finger that button with a picture and it does the thing behind there and it gets it for you.
Right.
And they'll be looking at us and thinking, you went to the kitchen, Aki mom, you were in the fire, like for 2 hours you were cooking ugali.
Yes.
You suffered. So you see, because the context has changed,
right.
it feels like this was suffering.
Right.
There's as long as the context is not is generally held, it's not suffering. It's just the reality we live in.
Right.
We carried guns, we went and fought. The barbarians, them they shikad bows and arrows and spears. You didn't shoot your enemy from there. You met face to face. You chapanad. Sometimes you even laughed at each other. They're like, dude, you will see. And for them, that is how war was fought. Right now, the US guys are sitting there with PSs and firing in Iraq. A guy is basically running a drone. But it doesn't take away the trauma when this kid, because I hear there's one of the kids who was very good at playing these war games, video games,
right.
and he was taken by the FBI to go and run their drones. But this time he's running real drones with real weapons, and he's shooting down guys. When this guy comes to discover that the news item that they are saying some Arab guy, some thug out there was killed, it's him who pulled the trigger. It doesn't take away the PTSD as compared to the one who was in a hand-to-hand combat and saw the eyes of his enemy die.
Yeah.
You can't justify the guy for hand-to-hand combat and say this other guy you're being soft.
Yeah. And
I think that's what we're talking about.
Exactly.
So when you look at your generation, you have your struggles, and genuine they are. All right. We can't nullify them. We can't ghost on them. But we can tell you this is how to navigate. Because even for us, we have to be told, this is how you will navigate a boarding school where you come in and the bullying is for military might. It's for going to sleep outside the whole night.
Yeah.
It's for, carrying a basin with water for 1 hour, and making sure not a drop goes down. So you have to just look at where you are. And I was sitting with some parent and telling them, they are saying, we feel like we are raising soft kids. I told them, listen, your kids will not face your friends in the streets.
That's true.
They will not face your age mates. Because we are thinking, you will face the guys who I dealt with, who had knives.
Exactly.
But you're dealing with guys who have Twitter handles. That's your battle. But it doesn't reduce your pain. Like you're saying, it doesn't reduce your pain. When this guy shames you, when this person doesn't like your photo, it speaks something to you that for me, I'm like,
it doesn't make sense, right?
It doesn't make sense, but it doesn't take away.
It doesn't.
The pain and the struggle of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, still a bit soft.
Wow, after all of that, I thought we were getting somewhere. but yeah, I genuinely think that a lot of parents don't see that, and it's always a comparison. But exactly what you said, we're not going to face the same people that you face. We're not going to go through the same struggles that you went through. And you need to draw the clear difference and now switch your perspective into understanding what are the struggles that the current generation are facing. How do we help them now navigate the struggles? But I think also as Gen Zs, we also need to understand that the times were completely different back in the day, and you guys have faced commendable struggles and commendable pain.
I like the word commendable.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, that's I'm not trying to make it less of a matter, because it genuinely was a struggle that you faced, and it's in understanding your story and understanding where you're coming from. But I think it goes both ways.
It's true. And I like telling people, when Moses was was basically born to rescue the Israelites, all right, take them from from Egypt, a civilized nation, into a promised land in the middle of the desert. He had a couple of experiences. One, He was born, yes, from this family, had a heritage, had his family intact, ended up being raised by his own mother, but on government support because the Pharaoh's daughter basically took him as a son and took the mother as a helper to feed and raise her own son.
Yeah.
He experienced the palace because he needed to understand what leadership is all about. All right. After that, after killing one of the Egyptians, he had to take off into the desert. He experienced the desert. He had to learn where not to sit, where you can sit, what not to drink, because he's going to bring 2 million people out to go into this jungle. They're not going to be in Tao. All right? So he experienced the jungle to know how to survive in that place and to know what to do and what not to do. So he had both military training, leadership training, but he also had jungle training because that's where the journeys are going to take him. None of these experiences is richer than the other.
Right.
You can be as civilized and as city-born and as savvy as you can be. But if you go to the village and then you sit in the wrong place and get bitten by a scorpion, there's nothing like, oh, but me, I'm a city guy. The thing will pain you and probably kill you if it's a snake. All right? And so what we learned in our growing up does not necessarily translate to what you're learning. You guys have to learn how to charter your own path and know how to navigate the waters of likes and hits and comments and how you respond to them and build capacity.
Right.
All right?
Right.
Your father does not know how that thing works because he's like, I don't understand. And it's true. For many parents, they don't understand why a comment on a social media platform by somebody you don't know can affect you so much that you get into depression.
Right.
And so your mandate is not to try and explain to them. It's to try and understand how to navigate these waters. And the sooner you know how to, the sooner you know what to do, what to say, how to block, the person who needs to be blocked, and how to accept genuine correction and rebuke, the better you are. It's the same way as just learning how to cross the road.
That's true.
Where not to cross, where to cross. And all those other rules that apply to the city. You guys are living in a different world from ours. Why am I saying from ours? I'm in this world with you guys.
But yeah, I agree.